What does it take to be a leader? How can 3 Cupertino agencies help you discover and develop your own leadership talents? I'm Donna Cray, Public Information Officer for the City of Cupertino. Join me for a discussion of Leadership Cupertino with this year's Director Rich Abdalah, next on Take 53.
It would be one of the most important news events of our time. It would mean the end of a major cause of heart disease, the elimination of a major cause of kidney disease, the eradication of a major cause of blindness. It's why we're spending millions in research dollars every year to make it happen. Won't you support one of the greatest research efforts of our time?
America was born of the sea and grew along her rivers and lakes. Ships brought her the goods and people to build a nation. A few of these great sailing ships and paddle boats remain to keep alive for us the lore and skills of another age. But like other valuable things from our past, they must be cared for and maintained. Lend a hand in protecting our national maritime heritage. Support maritime preservation in your community. Don't give up the ships.
3 years ago, the City of Cupertino, De Anza College, and the Cupertino Chamber of Commerce began a jointly sponsored program designed to encourage leadership in the community. Here to tell us about Leadership Cupertino is this year's Director, Rich Abdalah.
Hi, Donna.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Rich, why exactly was the Leadership Cupertino program started?
Several years ago, members of the Chamber of Commerce decided that it would be appropriate for the City of Cupertino to have a leadership program similar, at least in content or in purpose, to programs that already existed in other cities. For example, the City of Sunnyvale and the City of Palo Alto both already had leadership leadership programs. And we thought that it was about time that Cupertino got into that sort of thing, given that we are a very mature city at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. And what exactly does the program do?
Well, we invite people in virtually every profession and every background and every age group to participate in a 9-month-long program which involves going to various public agencies and to businesses, to meeting with leaders in those organizations, learn how the organizations work in and of themselves, and how the organizations relate to one another. We feel that to make the program meaningful, it was best for us to actually go to the places where leaders in the community or in the government sector or in the private sector actually worked. And that's the general program that we provide to the participants in the class.
Are leadership strategies then discussed at these places?
Right. It will vary depending on the nature of the organization. For example, we'll get a little different perspective from a county agency versus a special district, and we'll get an even different perspective from a school district versus a corporation. We attempt to meet with leaders in those organizations with the idea of getting or obtaining from them their views on leadership within their organizations and within the community.
Okay. And I know that you're a local attorney here in Cupertino. Can you give me an idea of how you yourself got involved in the program?
Well, I worked for the County of Santa Clara in their civil legal division for about 11 years and then went into private practice about 4 years ago. And I was working for Jim Jackson, who was a well-known attorney in Cupertino, a former mayor, and he was asked to be the director of the first program. And he invited me to join the program, and it was an invitation I really couldn't refuse, and I'm glad I did, as it turned out.
So you are this year's director of the class.
There have been 2 programs, and the first year I was a student, and this year, or this immediate past year, I was the director or coordinator of the program.
Okay, good. We'll stop for a minute now, and when we come back, we'll find out how successful the Leadership Cupertino program has been in the community. Stay tuned.
According to our California fire authorities, this summer is predicted to be one of the most disastrous fire seasons in California history. California has already experienced many disastrous fires, resulting in well over 100 homes damaged or destroyed and millions of dollars lost in property damage. More fires are anticipated in our state this year. Flammable brush and combustible wood roofs are major contributing factors to the rapid spread of these destructive fires. Home and property owners can reduce the risks of fire loss by controlling dangerous brush and weeds and by installing fire retardant roofs on homes and structures. These destructive fires to home and property can be prevented by a joint effort of the public, their local fire department, and local public officials working together. The Northern California Fire Chiefs are conducting a fire safety program this summer. Please contact your local fire department for more information on actions you can take to protect your home and property from these disastrous fires.
Rich Abdalah, this year's Director of Leadership Cupertino, is talking to us about the Community Leadership Program sponsored by the City of Cupertino, the Chamber of Commerce, and De Anza College. Rich, what kind of skills are expected to be learned through the Leadership Cupertino class?
Okay. We try to build a number of skills within the students. Leadership skills are our primary goal, but the group is divided up into two major sections. And we anticipate and hope that within those groups they'll have to learn skills such as team building, keeping in mind that everyone who participates has, quote, leadership potential, close quote, if you will. And you have often a lot of chiefs in a group like this, and consequently they're faced with the problem of trying to organize these people so that everyone's needs can be met within the group. We try to build communication skills and public speaking skills. Primarily that arises at the end of the program when we give a presentation to an organization or a group at the end of the program. We try to teach them to understand the interrelationship among government organizations, and in so doing be able to articulate how these organizations fit with one another. And we try to teach them essentially the skills including the ability to take a large body of data and present it in a meaningful, persuasive manner, almost debate or argumentation type skills. And basically we also try to teach them to be able to organize a presentation in an informative as well as an entertaining manner, because in a political setting effectiveness is not only content but sometimes in the way it's presented as well.
How do the students respond to each other? You said that they all have leadership potential, and as you also mentioned, sometimes there are a lot of chiefs and not many Indians.
Right.
What is the response or the response they have to each other?
Well, each class has its own personality. I probably am better able to answer that question by relating to the period when I was a student, and it was fascinating to see the politicking that went on the very first day of the program. People essentially volunteering themselves to be leaders of the group. What I found in participating, because we had a fairly long haul type of project, the class lasting over a 9-month period, that the leadership evolved as initially there were certain people who tended to want to grab the leadership role, and then over a period of time, as a result of a certain amount of attrition and trying to deal with the long haul, leadership evolved in a little different pattern. So you find that it kind of takes a natural course over a period of time. That's the one thing that the long haul does. It tends to allow the people to get to know each other a little better, and there are shifts that take place within the group.
Now, you mentioned that it was a 9-month course. What about the actual structure of the program?
Okay. This is the what we think is the highlight of the program. We looked at some programs that were being conducted in other cities, and we wanted to create a moderately competitive type of program. And we also wanted to be certain that it wasn't an academic-oriented program in the sense that we were doing everything in a classroom. So we decided that the community would be our classroom. Once a month for 4 hours in the afternoon, we will travel to the various agencies that we're studying. We went, for example, to the Water District treatment plant in Los Gatos. We traveled to the jail, the new jail, and toured that as an example. We went over to the treatment facilities for the sanitation district, the San Jose treatment plant. We visited with the planning department, both of the city and of the county of Santa Clara, the city of Cupertino. We met with the staff and leaders of the school district, both the high school district and the elementary school district. We also spent an afternoon at Hewlett-Packard, touring the facility there and meeting with some of their people who were involved in management and personnel, and learning how they organize and create the dynamics in an organization like that. So the program involves going to the places where the leaders are located, talking hopefully with the leaders of those organizations, and finding out about how the organizations work, how the organizations run, who runs the organizations, both inside and in the sense of the perception from the public, and take that back with us and attempt to put all of that information into a presentation that takes into account all of these various agencies.
Okay, and what about that presentation? What was the goal that these students were trying to find as they visited the various agencies you just spoke about?
When we begin the program, we have a scenario. And in this case, or in this year, we imagined that there had been a major earthquake centered in Cupertino. And as a result of that earthquake, there was massive damage and massive confusion among the agencies that would be involved in responding to such a disaster. And the scenario, or the imagined situation, goes on to suggest that as a result of that, there's a proposal enacted by the state legislature to consolidate all of the cities in Santa Clara County, the special districts and the school districts. And that this bill, which is being proposed in the legislature, is going to be debated before a select group of community members in June of this year, which is what we ended up doing. Then the group is divided into a support group and an opposition group. They, during the entire year, have an opportunity to ask questions from these various organizations that would provide them with data and arguments in favor or against the proposal. At the end of the year, we have a very enthusiastic debate before a group of select community leaders and government leaders, and they vote on the proposal that's presented after the debate is heard and presented by the members in the class.
So you have a pro and a con group trying to convince a panel, a separate panel, of whether or not the various county agencies should be consolidated into one government.
Yes.
And the city organizations as well. Is that correct?
Right. And needless to say, that raises innumerable questions, and not only logistical questions, but political questions, even social questions.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more so than virtually any other countywide topic I can think of, except perhaps public transportation, which we also study as a part of this program.
And how did the presentation go? Was there a winner and a loser on this? How did the panel end up voting?
Well, as I recall, we just had the debate a couple of weeks ago, the panel members, which included Diane McKenna from the County of Santa Clara, Board Supervisor, the Mayor of the City of Cupertino, John Plungy, the former City Manager, Bob Quinlan, the former foreperson of the grand jury, an attorney named Brett Bora, who works in Sunnyvale, and the fifth member of our panel was Linda Davis, who was the president of the Cupertino Sunnyvale League of Women Voters. At the end of the presentation, they essentially commented on the arguments that were given, expressed their views, and I think we politely ended that way without taking a vote. So I would say, however, based on my observations, it would be pretty fair to state that the status quo, that is, keeping things as they are, was predominantly the feeling of this panel. Perhaps we made the proposal a little too strong and too extreme to make it even possible to think of it, but it was really a very good topic to study, because I think we are going to have to talk more and more in terms of regionalized dealing with a variety of services that we now consider primarily local, transportation being a good example, land use being another good example. So although it may have been an imaginary scenario, I think that some of the issues that we studied are very much on the horizon.
What kind of feedback did you hear from the students? What do you think they got out of this program?
Well, I was speaking to one of the students earlier today, who happens to be an associate of mine in my law firm, and I asked him that question. And he said that, and I think this is probably a fair statement, he first of all became much more aware of the variety of agencies that have to come into play to provide all the services that we take for granted. Cupertino is a good example because it does contract for a lot of its traditionally public services, such as fire and police protection. He also, I think, came away with a much better feel of how they interrelate to one another. And I think he also felt that he, through a rather heated debate, got a better feel for what a political environment could be like if such a major issue or a major proposal were in fact made at some time in the future.
Do you think other students had those same feelings?
I think very much so. I think that they were a little surprised at how much opposition the final panel indicated to anything even close to what had been proposed by our imaginary legislation. I think that just from my own experience as formerly working for a government agency, most people don't really quite understand, who are not involved regularly in the government process, all of the special districts that we have. They understand school districts and they understand police protection and fire, but the average person, I think, is not as familiar as we probably should be with the variety of other kinds of things and agencies that provide a service.
As a former student, can you remember what your particular feelings were about the program after it was all over?
It was a lot of work. It was fascinating to watch people jockey for leader in the first part of the program. It was interesting to me how that evolved. It was exciting to put on that final presentation. It was fascinating to see all the resources that you had within the group. And I think I got just as much out of it as a student as I did as the director or coordinator of the program.
What about the time commitment? How strong is that?
For me or for the students?
For anybody in the program.
For the students, it would probably take not more than 5 hours a month until you reach the point at which the participants rather, are putting together their final presentation. And then I would suggest or estimate that there would be an additional 10 to 15 hours, say in the last 3 to 4 weeks. It comes pretty much at the end, all of the work does. That's pretty much it. There's no homework to speak of, and it just does meet once a month.
Do you know how the City of Cupertino's leadership program compares to the programs in other cities?
I'm familiar with Palo Alto and with the City of Sunnyvale. Their programs are quite a bit different. They tend to organize their program around the study of a topic, not necessarily dividing into groups. They do make a presentation at the end, but they don't have what I would call a debate sort of environment or a debate situation. They also don't develop a scenario the way we work our program. They take a very broad or general topic and study it, such as housing for the poor, or a very general topic. In that respect, the general format of the programs are quite a bit different.
Okay, and can you tell me how involved has the business community been in this program in Cupertino?
Okay. It's, as I said, and as you stated earlier, one of the sponsoring agencies is the Chamber of Commerce, and they provide us with quite a bit of support. We're also supported by De Anza and, of course, the City of Cupertino. The business community is very helpful with not only allowing employees to participate in the program. In some cases, at least one corporation in the community actually provides scholarships for students who want to take the program and give them the time off to participate as well. So in that respect, we've gotten quite a bit of support. In fact, if we didn't get their cooperation, the program really couldn't work.
Okay. Let's stop now for a break, and when we come back, we'll discuss the future of Leadership Cupertino and how you can go about registering for the class.
You were the first in this family to get into college.
I'm so proud of you.
I can't go, can I? I just can't afford to send you.
I didn't mean to let you down.
I understand. Maybe next year. Maybe.
Hard-working students deserve a chance. Please, support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
5 o'clock. People in a hurry, rushing for trains, for buses. Time to go home, to family. But for this man and 2 million like him, there is no hurry, no schedule, nowhere to go. For them, the street is home, their only home, the homeless. Just because you can't help everyone doesn't mean you can't help someone.
We're back on Take 53 with Leadership Cupertino Director Rich Abdalah. Rich, what kinds of people generally apply for the Leadership Cupertino program?
We have a very healthy cross-section of the community. For example, in this last program, I was reviewing the backgrounds of the students. Once again, we had engineers, we had at least one attorney, we had several people from the medical facility over at Palo Alto at the VA Medical Center. There were a couple of people who were self-employed. We had one gentleman who worked at a local radio station. We had several people who were in the real estate business. And we also had people who were simply students at De Anza that were just taking this as one of their elective classes. Within the group, we have some pretty strong people who were active already in the community. For example, one of the students was already on the City Planning Commission. Another member of the class was on the Recreation Commission for the City of Cupertino. And still another student was on the Fine Arts Commission. Now, last year, our program had a couple of graduates, if you will, that went on to fairly important roles in the city. Barbara Koppel, now a member of the City Council, was one of my classmates in that first class. and we had another student who was appointed to, I believe it was the Architectural and Site Approval Committee, fairly shortly after that program was completed.
Are there any restrictions on who may or may not apply for this program?
No, there's no residency restriction. We invite everyone who's interested. We don't focus exclusively on Cupertino. Our program is, frankly, very county-wide oriented. And the only limitation we have is that the limitation within our marketing, and Deanza does most of the program solicitation, and so that's kind of forms a natural boundary. But no, there are no geographic or residency restrictions at all.
Rich, about the future of Leadership Cupertino, what changes would you like to see?
Well, I would like to see a little more support from individual corporations in the nature of scholarships for employees, encouraging one or two employees from each of the major companies to participate. I must say that Hewlett-Packard was probably the shining example of what I would like to see. 5 of our students were from Hewlett-Packard, of the 20 students who were in the program. And I believe that a couple of those students even received some financial support for the scholarship portion of it. I might add that we charged $95, at least that was the charge for this year's program. And that compares rather favorably with Sunnyvale, which charges around $600, and it also compares very favorably with Palo Alto, which charges over $700 for their program. It's been our belief that the program ought to be as inexpensive as possible so that anyone can join it, regardless of their financial ability.
Do you have any ideas for future topics that leadership classes can delve into? We've been thinking about it, and we've come up with an idea. Actually, one of the council members suggested this particular idea, which would include an imaginary proposal for building a large sports arena in the quarry area here, or in the community, which would affect the more city of Cupertino perhaps than any other agency, but it would impact on transportation, land use, and so forth. We've imagined an idea involving the installation of light rail all the way from Palo Alto through Cupertino to Los Gatos, and what that would do in the way of a study of land use, political boundaries, and so forth. Rich, about next year's program, how would somebody go about registering for that? You can call the Deanza College Short Course Department at 996-4966, and they can provide any student or person interested in the program with further information. Okay. That does it for our show today. I'd like to thank my guest, Rich Abdalah, for being here. It was a pleasure speaking with you and learning all about our leadership program. And I'd like to thank you, too, for watching Take 53.